You know, in the world of AI, we're standing on the edge of something huge. We're moving past simple automation and stepping into the era of AI agents. These are systems that don't just follow a list of instructions, they actually think for themselves. So today, we're going to unpack the blueprint for how these agents work and how they're about to completely redefine the way we get things done.
So let me ask you something. We're all used to automation that just follows a strict, rigid script, right? But what if your AI could do more than that? What if it could actually reason and plan and adapt on the fly to solve problems it's never even seen before? Well, that's the promise of AI agents, and that's the world we're diving into.
Okay, so first things first, we've got to wrap our heads around a really fundamental shift, the move from that basic automation we all know to what we call dynamic agency. And trust me, while they might sound kind of similar, they are in completely different leagues.
And this, right here, lays out the difference perfectly. Think of traditional AI automation like a train on a fixed track. It follows one predefined straight line. Fetch the news at 9 a.m., then summarize it. It can't deviate. But an AI agent, that's a whole different ballgame. It's more like an explorer with a goal, a map, and a whole bag of tools. It can actually think about a request and decide for itself whether it needs to do a web search or maybe access a file or even combine a few tools to get the job done. It chooses its own path.
And that right there is the core of this whole evolution. We're making the jump from systems that are just simple task doers to systems that are dynamic problem solvers. And this is huge because it unlocks the ability to tackle these really complex, multi-step challenges that were pretty much impossible to automate before.
So the big question is, how do they actually pull this off? How does it work? Well, let's peel back the layers and take a look at the anatomy of an AI agent to really understand how they think and act to solve these problems.
So, an agent's power, it's not magic, right? It all comes down to its toolkit. An agent doesn't just do things on its own. Instead, it uses very specific tools, like a web search tool or a code execution tool that are provided by the application it's running inside of.
And this leads us to an absolutely critical design principle, the separation of duties. Think of it like this. The brain of the operation is a large language model, or LLM. That's the AI that understands what you're asking and makes the decisions. It does all the thinking and chooses which tool to use. The application itself acts as the body. It's the one that safely carries out the action, executes the tool, and then reports back. And this separation, this is the secret sauce. It's what makes these agents so powerful, but also safe and controllable.
This whole back and forth between the brain and the body isn't just random chaos. It follows a really precise 6-step protocol. This loop is what governs every single action the agent takes, and it ensures the whole process is predictable and safe. So let's walk through that path.
Okay, so follow me on this. It all kicks off with the user's prompt. That's step 1. That prompt gets sent over to the LLM, along with a list of all the tools it can use. Then, at step 2, the LLM makes its choice. At step 3, the application detects that choice, and, this is key, at step 4, the application, not the LLM, safely executes the tool. The result of that action is then sent back to the LLM in step 5. And finally, with this new piece of information, the LLM puts together the final response for the user in step 6. This whole loop ensures the AI is doing the thinking, but the application always stays in control of the doing.
Okay, theory is great and all, but let's get our hands dirty and make this real. And here's the most exciting part. You don't have to be some expert coder to build these things. Let's actually walk through a practical, no-code example to see just how accessible this technology really is. So check this out. Here's a blueprint from a really popular no-code platform. Every single agent you build is made up of 3 core parts. First, you have the model. That's the LLM brain we talked about that does all the reasoning. Second, you have the memory, which is kind of like the agent's notebook, helping it keep track of the conversation. And finally, you have the tools, which is the specific toolkit of skills you decide to give your agent. And you know what? Giving the agent these tools is surprisingly simple. If you want it to be able to search the web, you just connect a web search tool and plug in an API key. Want it to save files? You connect a cloud storage tool and tell it where to put them. See? You're not coding these abilities from scratch. You're just giving the agent new skills by plugging in tools that already exist. Now, this little text box right here, this might just be the most powerful part of the entire setup. This is where you set the agent's system message. Think of it as its prime directive. This one instruction is what defines the agent's role, its personality, and the basic rules it has to follow no matter what.
Seriously, this one sentence, You are a helpful research assistant. That's all it takes. This simple instruction is what transforms a generic, all-purpose AI into a specialized assistant. It's what's constantly guiding its thinking process, and that's the real difference between a general chatbot and a focused expert tool.
All right, so we've covered the theory, we've looked at how to build one. Now let's deconstruct this blueprint one last time to really lock in the most important takeaways.
So just to quickly recap how this works in a real run. First, some kind of trigger kicks off the workflow. Then, it might grab some dynamic data, like today's date. After that, it assembles a super precise task for the agent, mixing our instructions with that new data. And from there, the agent is set loose to think, use its tools, and bring back the final report.
So, what are the big takeaways here? What should you really walk away with? First, we are moving from linear, rigid scripts to dynamic problem solving, where agents can actually reason and choose their own way forward. Second, none of this is magic. It's all built on a logical, controllable protocol that keeps a human in the loop for safety. And finally, and maybe most importantly, is accessibility. These visual, no-code platforms are putting the power to create truly intelligent agents into everyone's hands.
So there you have it. We've gone through the whole thing, the concept, the components, and the construction. You now have the blueprint for moving beyond simple automation. The only question left is, what will you transform